want to start off by asking, China is busy with a number of bilateral meetings. It is already Peru's largest trading partner. There's been discussion they may sign a free trade agreement. What would this mean for the two economies, in your opinion?
Well, Karina, I think that the bilateral relationship between China and Peru is important for Peru, but also for the region as well. So I think many would consider the China-Peru relationship a model of global South-South cooperation. So trade, of course, is very important, something like $37 billion in bilateral trade last year, growing at about 13%. But also the people-to-people relations, the cultural relations are very important as well. An increasing number of Chinese TV shows are seen in Peru. The Three-Body Problem, the science fiction novel, was translated into Spanish and launched in Peru. So I think, again, this shows another dimension of this relationship. And then finally, from an infrastructure perspective, we just saw the official inauguration of Chancay port, which has the potential to be a catalyst not only for long-term sustainable development in Peru, but the region as well.
And then more broadly, a number of South American nations, including Peru, have signed up for the Belt and Road Initiative. How does that influence China's influence in the broader region?
Well, I think this is very, very important, and I can't help but think of the quote by Pablo Neruda, the Chilean poet and Nobel laureate, who wrote that Latin America is very fond of the word hope. We'd like to be called the continent of hope. And this hope is like a promise of heaven, an IOU whose payment is always put off. And the reason for this is that the days of colonialization in Latin America resulted in very uneven infrastructure development, where most of it was along the coast to facilitate the export of gold, other resources back to the old world. And what China has done is offered a new path forward. And I think here, by providing not just the capital, but the expertise in projects like Chancay Port, that it is serving as a catalyst for long-term infrastructure development that will link not only Peru, but the countries around it, so Colombia, Ecuador, Bolivia, Brazil, and that this could provide the foundation for long-term growth. And in a sense, I think China is pushing on an open door here, because I think this part of the world has long been disillusioned by its relations with other countries, including the Old World in Europe, and with the United States as well, which has had a tradition of intervention in this part of the world that has bred resentment. And I think here the Chinese are very, very welcome, because they are, again, offering a non-ideological win-win opportunity for sustainable long-term development.
And how does that influence possible tech investment that might follow suit?
Well, I think this is a vital component of this, Karina. So this port is not just a port, but it incorporates some of the latest automation technology, which makes it cost competitive, increases throughput. Digital commerce is an enormous factor in Latin America. So TikTok, of course, is doing very well in Latin America. E-commerce companies like Temu, Shein, AliExpress are growing like gangbusters, and I think also electric vehicles as well. Again, this is not just development, but sustainable development in the sense of not just economic sustainability, but environmental sustainability as well. So I think technology plays a very, very important role, and we can maybe think of this largely under the rubric of the digital Silk Road, which is a complement to the BRI.
Mm. And then Latin America has historically been more aligned with the United States when it comes to trade. How do you see China's growing trade relations with Peru and other Latin America countries shifting this balance?
Well, I think the relationship between Latin America and the United States is a complex one, and perhaps an ambivalent one as well. So you're right that because of geographic proximity, the historic size and the advanced nature of the U.S. economy, that Latin America really, in a sense, had no choice. We see now with the growth of China, the Chinese market, uh, Chinese technology, Chinese capital, that again, I think that China sees in many ways that it's pushing on an open door in Latin America, where these countries, whether it's Peru, whether it's Brazil, whether it's Mexico, really welcome what China has to offer in terms of market access, expertise, capital, et cetera. So I think this is very, very positive. Now, it must also be said that this is causing some anxiety in the U.S. as well, and it is seeking to pressure Latin America countries, but it certainly seems like these concerns are falling on deaf ears.
And, I want to go back to talking about the port for a second, because obviously it's a major boom and it will help accelerate trade. But how important is input from the private sector? How much do they need to interact with the public sector to move forward?
Well, I think the private sector is vital in Latin America. So the port we can think of as mostly private. I mean, so Costco is a majority owner of this, and this is the foundational infrastructure that will facilitate private sector growth, whether this is in Chancay itself in terms of jobs, new businesses, especially SMEs that will have many opportunities as port activity ramps up. But we think about with regional integration, there'll be more opportunities, of course, for exports, whether this is agricultural exports, maritime exports, et cetera. And looking the other way, so with imports of Chinese goods, and again, I think e-commerce is a great example of this, that this creates opportunities for private sector growth in China, in Latin America, in other parts of the world as well. So I think the private sector has an incredibly important part to play here.
Andy, not a lot of time left, but want to get your perspective because sustainable growth has been a key initiative at APEC. So how is China helping a country like Peru move towards renewable energy and sustainable practices?
Well, I think these two countries have a complementary relationship. So EVs are a great example. China's a global leader in technology and cost and design. But some of the key inputs, the raw inputs, come from places like Peru. So certainly a complementary relationship. And I think certainly lots of opportunity and excitement, I think, for developments in this area.
All right, we will have to leave it there. Andy Mok, thank you so much for your time and perspective.
Thank you.